Hey there! So what we have here on the bench today, covered up by this needle blanket. For those of you who see this headstock and already scream, "That's a Musima, that's East German." Yeah, right, you scored a point. But what is it? If you're thinking, hey, hold on, that must be an Elgita, you're very close, but not quite right. It's not an Elgita. It's something way more rare, at least here where I live. So, in this period of Musima guitars, at least solid bodies, so we're talking 60s to early 70s here, there are pretty much three distinct models. All of those were called Elektrina as like a main term for the solid bodies, I guess. You would often see this one here labeled as Elektrina, which is kind of right, but also not the name of this model. Because as it turns out, I found some old catalogs. There was the way more famous Elgita, which had two pickups. The top of the line model, the Eterna or Eterna Deluxe, which had three pickups. And you could see both of them from time to time. And this one is the very, very rare single pickup version of those. And according to this catalog here, it's just called the 1/2. Anyways, let's take a closer look. This one here, I got it from the original owner, or like the brother of the original owner. And it's in amazing condition. It was kept pretty well, I suppose, at least like warm and dry. Those celluloid pickguards always shrink and break and fall apart. This one's looking pretty good. Beautiful Simeto pickup. Those are like the most coveted ones. They're supposed to be similar to gold foils in construction, and this is like the type of East German pickup you want. Then it has this fun little string holder, which is only present on this model. The other two had vibrato systems. Instead of the usual 6-saddle bridge that the others have, we just have a little wooden archtop style bridge and saddle. But that's original to the guitar. I've seen pictures of this. The body is very thin, pretty lightweight. We have the original plastic output jack, which is not cracked. Looks perfect. Then the little caution sign label is still there. This is often like scratched off or rubbed off. I mean, even the chrome looks pretty decent still. Then on the neck, it's like super glossy. Still, there's like almost no finish checking going on. Tuning machines look great. I noticed some of them are a little bit loose. Some are a little bit stiff to turn, so it wouldn't hurt to clean them up and oil them, even though they look great. But yeah, they're stiff. They could use some maintenance. We have the usual two threaded inserts for mounting the neck. Roman numeral 5 punched in there. We've seen all sorts of things. We've seen a 9 punched in there. We've seen like 7 punched in there, and still no idea what it means. Very chunky neck profile as usual. And on the front, interesting grain on the rosewood board here. This one has the wider frets. I've seen like 2 fret sizes on these guitars, and this appears to be like the bigger one or the taller one, which I like. Looks decent at first glance. It might be fully usable. I hope the neck is straight. Missing some chunks of wood up here, but anyways. I mean, even the nut or string guide in this instance looks pretty neat. Often you will have people file the grooves bigger with a triangular file to get some freaking nylon strings on there or whatever. Not in this case. The screw on the truss rod cover looks untouched. All the little bushings are there. Pretty neat. I think I will still have to take it apart a little bit further to polish some corrosion starting here, to clean the pot and to search for like a date code or something. Clean everything up, maybe do some fretwork. And it should be a quick and easy project, although I say that about all the projects and they're never quick and easy. But this time, you know, yeah, let's get right into it. Oh, look at that. I think we might be the first ones in there since the factory. See, that's looking like completely untouched. And now for the body. This interesting little tailpiece should just slide off, I believe. And it does move. Just don't want to scratch up the finish too much. Now that is clever. Anyone want to steal that idea for their guitars? It's very cool looking, clean design and beautiful. And oh, by the way, hello. These little wires here on the belt things can go. Goodbye. Thanks for your service. We don't need you anymore. There really isn't many parts on this guitar. I think we can lift the pickguard now. And those little screws here, they look completely untouched. Usually people go in there with less than optimal tools and they kind of damage them, and you can tell. But in this case, I might be the first one to open this up. The screws pulling out in an angle like that inwards, which tells me there's already been some shrinking of the guard going on. Yeah, we should probably pull a template off of this before it shrinks too much or warps or anything. Whenever you get a Musima of this sort of series, you always have to expect to make a new pickguard. This one looks remarkable and I'd love to keep it. So I should have like a tracing of this ready for whenever it completely disintegrates and I need to make a new one. But for now, I hope I can keep it. And now we should be able to carefully lift the pickguard. Yeah, as expected, not too much to see here. Just the cable coming from the pickup, and oh, look at the corrosion on the bolt there. Oh, that's terrible. That's all like the off-gassing of this old plastic that's causing the corrosion everywhere. I mean, that's another reason why we should replace it, ideally, to keep it from off-gassing like that. I expected there could have been like a treble bleed cap. They did this on some models, but doesn't look like it. Also doesn't look like your typical East German pot at first glance. You often have like these rectangular ones. So what's it telling us? In the middle row, 1 MA would be 1 mag, and A would be the curve. We can only guess, logarithmic probably. 0.25 watts. Well, yeah, we don't need that. On top, P7528 could be a date code, but I think the 7311 on the bottom should be a date code, which would make this one of the last, I believe. Did they even make them until 73? 75 on the top seems a bit late, because by that year we would have already switched over to the 25 series of guitars. So I believe 73 is a possibility. The trick with these knobs is there's a screw hidden under the rubber. This is like a piece of black rubber tubing on the metal pot. See, just like that. Now we can come in with a very narrow screwdriver and hope it's not like rusted solid. Oh, it's moving. And here's the jack in like great condition for one of these weird plastic types. I don't think I've ever seen one that wasn't broken. I went ahead and removed some solder joints, both the little output jack as well as the pickup lead from the pot. Next step would be trying to brush off some of the corrosion on the bolts and hope I can get those to move. We have to be very careful though, because this is pretty much a transparent pickguard which is just painted black on the back. So if I put a scratch here, you can see it from the front. At least it's looking way better than the old one. That's fun. It's neither 5 nor 6 millimeters. It's ye olde 5.5 millimeters wrench. Yeah, this is definitely not common today anymore, but luckily I have one period correct. And it moves straight away. So we might just get lucky here. Fingers crossed. See what I mean about corrosion? Yeah, that's not looking great. And it's all because the vapor is coming off of this decomposing old plastic here. Oh. These tuning machines don't actually look too bad, but it's still going to be the same old routine of taking them apart, cleaning, polishing, and putting it back together with some fresh oil, and then they should be good to go. And once we're done, not only do they look a bit better, but most importantly, they run way smoother. So please, folks, when you own an old guitar like that, please don't discard the old tuners straight away. At least give them a try. Often there's way more life left in these than you read on the forums. It's a tricky operation, but I want to do something about the pickup here before the rust starts eating into the bobbin and the coil and eventually damages it beyond repair. And in order to really brush and clean this off, I'll have to take the pickup apart. And there we have it. So the cover is off. And what we have here actually reminds me of these I once had open like an old kawaii gold foil. And it was very similar looking. So you have this kind of steel base plate that's formed up in the middle in pole pieces. First I took off the magnets and stuck them on a steel plate so I don't mess up the orientation. This was already quite tough because there was some sort of glue between the coil and the magnets. And now the next problem, the coil itself was kind of melted and welded on the steel here from the heat of soldering. So I had to go around with like a little knife and carefully pry it loose. And I think I just about got it. So here we go. Yeah. There it comes. Oh, it looks terrible. See how melted that is? So I think we'll have to undo the ground soldering point over there. Then we should be able to take it off and deep clean the steel part here. That's like the main goal of the entire job. For the pole pieces, I cleaned off the tops here because they looked way better. The bottoms are very rusted out. So these will have to come out down below. We need a narrow tool for that. There we go. And luckily everything is magnetic, so we can't lose it that easily. See, it's just a little grub screw, off the shelf one. Let's see how far the wire brush can take this here. Big improvement if you ask me. And the bigger guns for the inside of the cover. Yeah, that's all right. And for the outside, I'll do some hand polishing. That's decent if you ask me. It's not perfect, but most important thing is stopping the corrosion. Here's a failure mode on the neck you don't see every day. Yeah, there's a crack in the finish. But, I mean, doesn't feel that bad. But if you go in with like a feeler gauge, there's a spot where you can go all the way to the truss rod. And that's not great. Yeah, we don't want the neck falling apart on us. That's gonna be tough to clamp. My idea is to try and wick some fish glue down there. I think fish glue has a property where when it hardens, it kind of contracts a little bit. Hopefully pulls it a bit together, I'm not sure. But I will also use this surgical tubing to tie around the neck and provide some even all-around tangential pressure, basically. Yeah, let's try that. Now try to work it in there. Suction cup, first of all. That's all I can do. Let's clean up the mess and put some tubing on there. Let's look at the neck next. The truss rod had just a tiny bit of tension on it, and it looked almost new. I don't think anybody ever adjusted it before. But luckily for us, the neck is very straight, so I just gave it a tiny bit more tension, but still barely anything. And the neck appears to be pretty straight on like the straight edge. There might be a small relief still in this section, but that looks more like some low frets rather than like deformation in the neck. So yeah, let's try a leveling pass and see where we're going. And if we check in the back here, where there's probably the least amount of play wear, we can tell that the frets are roughly what's that, just about 1 millimeter tall. I suspect like 1.8 wide. Oh no, those are the wider ones. They're like 2.3 wide, which is a relatively modern thread wire size. Yeah, let's get some marker on top of the threads and try a leveling pass. And this is what it looks like when it's almost there. You can tell there's been a bunch of material removed by all the metal flakes, but on some threads there will still be red present on top. For instance here, and you know there's still a low spot, so there has to be more sanding done until you see sanding marks all across them. And then around the 15th thread here there's still like a massive low spot. So I will keep on going until like the lower threads from here to around here are great. And then in the back I will file in some extra fallaways, so I will make these threads progressively flatter towards the end. And when I think I'm done, I will go through with a thread rocker and try if I can detect any low spots. There's still a tiny bit. And it's this one low spot where I just scratched the surface, but I think it will need a little bit more. Next step will be crowning, and for that we'll add some marker again. I mean, if you're into guitar building videos at all, you've probably seen this entire process of fretwork a million times. And I don't want to make a fretwork tutorial, so let's skip forward a little bit quicker through this. Until there's just a nice thin line in the center left, and the rest will be taken care of during polishing. Next, the fret ends will receive some attention. They were not particularly great from the factory, so I'll just go in with my file here and knock the corners off a little bit. Next, I'll do the round over a bit more. This work is a little bit different than on a fresh refret or new frets, because you just have to work with what is already there, or better, like you have to work with what is not there, because they already ground in quite a bit of a radius here. Instead of this usual 30-degree angle, this is very rolled over, so I'll have to make do with that. Some more numbers for those who care. We have a very shallow radius of just about like 16 or 17 inches, which would be a metric number in reality, I don't know. A scale length of 640 millimeters, which is pretty common for these, and a nut width of approximately like 44 millimeters, even though the official catalog says 45 millimeters. What's going on here? Quality control? Hello? Yeah, but anyways. It even calls the neck shape like a stiletto neck, which, yeah, I know for a period of time West German manufacturer Framus used the same phrase. That's maybe where they stole it from, I don't know. But honestly, this is like such a chunky profile, complete baseball bat. It does not feel like a stiletto in any way. Polishing is next. Not my favorite step, but definitely very important. I'm starting with 400 grit paper here and work my way up. Okay, last one done here. I must admit, I still can't really do the entire thing in one go without like at least one of my fingers starting to cramp up a little bit. I know that's a sign of bad technique probably, and I'm working on it, and I'm trying to keep it easy, but not quite there yet. So for the frets, as you can tell, they are smooth but not perfectly shiny yet. And I like to use steel wool as a last step and go over the fretboard as well, because at the same time this will kind of clean and sand the fretboard a little bit. Some masking tape around the edge is usually a good idea, so I can go over the fret ends without hurting the finish. In this case, I usually start with that. Just going like that and really polishing the fret ends. Apart from some oil, maybe the neck is sorted. That means we can look at the overall geometry of the instrument now. You're gonna say, hey, this is a solid body, what's going to be wrong with the geometry? Well, we have to consider this funky little almost jazz guitar archtop style bridge, which, by the way, this exact type is original. I've seen photos of it, but I think I've only seen it on this model. The other Musima bridges looked distinctly different. So if we just place it here and have a look down the neck, yeah, straight away the bridge is in its lowest position and it's already kind of too high. So this way we'll never be able to get a good setup on the guitar. We have to do something about it. The base of the bridge has these little studs sticking way out, which is of course killing the finish. I do not think it is intended. I mean, if it were like spikes or little pins, I would have thought it is to anchor it so it doesn't slide around, but honestly, this is probably just a little hindsight in manufacturing, so I will ground these flush. If you look at the guitar, you can already see the damage it has done. Nope, I could just carefully pound them back in with a light hammer tap, and now I put some thin CA glue there to hold it in place. While I could just use about 1.5 millimeter of shim stock in the back of the neck pocket to get the angle I want, I actually think this is not a great idea, because when you look at the pocket here, you can tell it's very clean and uneven. There's this large chunk of material missing here where, I don't know, like their router jig slipped a little bit or whatever. And the neck is actually just contacting on these 2 points where the paint has rubbed off and there's a big gap. So instead of adding material here, I'm considering leaving this section as it is and removing material towards here. So basically routing an angle in like that, and at the same time cleaning up the pocket and making for a way better fit. All set up in the guitar body torturing device, also known as neck pocket routing jig. Now that is a much nicer neck pocket if you ask me. And you can still read the punch mark, the little Roman 5 there. These are clear plastic, painted black on the backside, and I believe afterwards they come and mill in this little channel here where it removes the black paint, and then they will come in, I think, with a brush and just paint in some gold paint. You can still see the remnants of that. Unfortunately, the pigment in there must have been some brass or copper based stuff, turns this ugly green oxide color and kind of fades away overall. So if you look against the light, It's just like a clear channel with some ugly brown stuff in there. I'm considering just cleaning this a little bit and maybe even going back in and recoloring it with some gold paint, just so it doesn't look that nasty. I went ahead and put it back together, as you can see. For now, I just put a set of regular 10 gauge strings on there, and without further ado, let's hear how it sounds. Alright, so first impressions. Yeah, I mean, I love the thing. That's definitely thumbs up for me. It's, of course, not the most, I don't know, like ergonomic in terms of the way modern guitars can be ergonomic and easy and fun to play or whatever. Just because this feels a little bit cumbersome given like this super massive, chunky, almost rectangular neck profile here. You can kind of tell from the side, like this is very chunky, even down here. But the sound, I mean, man, it's a pretty lightweight guitar and the pickup is amazing. It's all the good things you tend to read about these Simedo pickups. It's pretty high output, very great clarity, and I mean, it sort of reminds me a little bit of a gold foil, but with some P90 mixed in there. I mean, it's amazing. This instantly turned into my new favorite pickup. One thing, though, the original bridge on those is not amazing. As you can tell here, the changes we did to the neck pocket worked in our favor, as we still have some adjustment room down here, which looks pretty healthy and great. The string break angle is good as well. But the intonation cuff in here is not optimal. It's a little bit out of tune. And the grooves in there for the string spacing don't quite line up if we look at the pickup. Check out the way the high E string passes over the pickup. This does not match the pole pieces at all. So the spacing here could be like at least 3 millimeters wider. I'm considering making a new top piece out of rosewood for this bridge, so I can save the original instead of modifying it, and just have a replacement I can put on there to play it, and keep this with the guitar. And now we need to turn this into this. If we look closely at the original, we can tell it's not a hand-carved but a machined piece. There wouldn't be CNC machines back then. This is probably done with a machine that follows a physical template or something like that. And you can tell there was a round cutter coming in and doing these notches for the intonation here. I will not match this closely, I will more or less improvise these, but I will try to keep the overall shape intact, like the general dimensions and the curved edges here and the radius overall. And of course I have to match these holes to fit. And there's the first test fit, and now I can mark out the string spacing for real. Here we are, some filing and sanding later. I mean, I know it's not a perfect color match, not at all, but I think it should do the trick. All in all, I think it blends in quite well, doesn't stick out too much, and the guitar intonates a little bit better now when you play the high frets. Overall, I'm quite happy. It's a really cool guitar, I like playing it, and also it's quite a rare one. So after all, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this little look at a less than usual guitar again. And yeah, stay tuned for the next one. See you then, bye.